Louise wanted us to look at the rand against the American dollar, the currency pair USD ZAR. And we've mentioned last week that this descending channel that the rand is caught in is a very critical level, waiting there at around 1458. Because take note how close that red line, the 40-week moving average, is waiting at that upper band of the channel. And look what the rand has done last week. It went and tested the channel on this spot and retraced from it. And we have seen that high there, touching there at around 1459 this week, excuse me, and then retraced from it. And that tells me the expectation is rather a stronger rand. But the formation implies more weakness. So if the rand starts to consolidate above, only when it does it, above that 1459 level, can I expect again a weaker rand? What is the target of that channel? And some might call it even a wedge, because the mouth of the channel is more narrow than the tail. So I must rather call this a wedge, actually, a falling wedge. So the target is the length of the wedge projected upwards from where it will be confirmed. So it might be even confirmed there around 1454 if it changes that upper band into a support. So the possible target of the rand, Louise, is then there at 1544 should the full formation play out. But we know it doesn't happen in one stride, and it might pull back and bounce again. But more important, I want to highlight is also, and I've said it last week as well, I might be sitting here with a possible head and shoulder formation. I don't know how high my right shoulder will be. And this is just a projection because we keep on saying stronger candles, candles that imply strength in the rand. So only when the rand wipes out this left shoulder, and that is waiting there, the high of that candle is 15 rand and 17 cents. So if the rand starts to consolidate, first above that psychological level of 15, and then above 15.17, my strength in this formation will become obsolete. So at the moment, only above 1459, Louise, can we expect a weaker rand. When the rand continues to consolidate below 1459, our view is still a stronger rand. To the downside, what are my levels? 1430, 1412, and again that strong neckline, strong support waiting there around 13 rand 92. When will my channel be wiped off the table? Obviously when it starts to consolidate below the neckline of my formation, of my head and shoulder formation. But this might be a very small right shoulder that it might be working on. A massive left shoulder and then maybe a smaller right shoulder. But a weaker rand above 1459, and at the moment, as long as the 40-week moving average remains a resistance, we expect a stronger rand. And take note, my stochastic indicator is sitting here on a 34, no man's land zone, but my shorter moving average look like it is losing steam. And this teardrop candle, this candle with the long upper shadow, tells me that there is definitely more buyers in the rand and therefore more strength for the downside. I hope that helps you with your decision, Louise. You sounded quite nervous about the rand, and it is one of the currencies that are traded the most because of its volatility. Fan 101 wanted us to look at the currency pair British pounds to the rand. Now, Fan, we currently are sitting here with an inverse head and shoulder formation. A left shoulder, a massive head, a right shoulder, a little bit of a bigger right shoulder. So when the pound or the rand against the pound changes this neckline into a support, and that is waiting there around 19 rand 28. If the rand starts to consolidate above 19.28, I can see a lot higher, lot weaker levels on the British pound. What is my possible targets? It's the length of the left shoulder or the right shoulder, either one, you could, whichever the most conservative one you want to take. Projected upwards from where the neckline is confirmed, which means my rand against the pound can go to about 20.33 should this inverse head and shoulder formation play out. More importantly, my 40-week moving average, this red line, has now changed into a support, which tells me more weakness against the pound. Only when the rand against the pound starts to consolidate below 18.55 again, can I maybe expect more strength. Again, my stochastic is here in no man's land, which is telling me uncertainty. I want it to be in the corners before I box it. So use the 40-week moving average as your stop loss should you want to trade maybe this inverse head and shoulder formation. But also take note that you might find a little bit of resistance at the neckline before it actually breaks to a side. As you can see, clear whipsaw or false breaks that we've seen previously on the pound. Kevin wanted us to look at Taylor Brands. It's a company listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's actually one of the few shares that haven't rallied to higher levels the way the rest of the US market have done. So Kevin, well spotted here. I think this might be an opportunity if you believe that the US market can continue to rise, a share that might still see higher levels if the momentum to the top continues. Now, technically, at the moment, we can see for weeks now, the share has just consolidated sideways. And Taylor Brands has to change that level around $4.67 into a support in order for us to think that this might be a turnaround story. My stochastic is also still pointing downwards, which is not ideal. So I want those two moving averages within my indicator to point upwards, to break one another to the upside, because then I will have confirmation of a divergence, and that will be seen as positive. And Kevin, take note that 40-week moving average, that red line in the sand, that is the key. That is the bell that will ring whether the sentiment, the long-term sentiment towards the share will change to positive. And that 40-week moving average is waiting at $5.24. So if you are an investor that have moved maybe funds offshore, have a look and keep an eye on Taylor Brands, because there is also some nice window targets to the upside that one can use as possible targets. Abraham wanted us to look at Newmont Mining. Now, a lot of these gold shares, even not only locally but internationally as well, have given massive rallies to the top. Now we're going to look also at Barry Gold. Colin wanted us to look at Barry Gold, but at the moment, Newmont Mining, the momentum to the top is clearly in place. But we can see for the last 4 weeks, the share has actually consolidated sideways. And Abraham, this is a beautiful example of a gravestone doji candle. Look there, strong shadow to the upside. The share is almost closed at the same levels of the low, and the real body of the candle is so small I can hardly see it. Beautiful example of a gravestone doji candle, and that tells me selling pressure. It tells me that there were investors that have banked profit, and that negativity was almost confirmed with the consecutive candle that was also negative. So only when Newmont starts to consolidate above $44.05 again, will I assume that the momentum to the top will continue. It's given a massive rally. The 40-week moving average is a support. Will I short this share? No. I think I will only think about gold shares shorting it if you're very brave. When the gold price starts to consolidate below $1,480 again, I won't do that before then. But if you want to use maybe a short level, Kevin, $42.52, below that level you can short it. Use these upper bands at 44.14 as possible stop loss levels, but take note of that stochastic. The indicators are still pointing upwards. It means it can still rally to higher levels. Barry Gold is a clearer indication of maybe a possible loss of momentum, sellers that have taken profit. Because if we look at the Barry Gold graph, we can see that there might be a possible double top formation in the making, or even maybe even a lower high. Because the share, what is a lower high? It means the share has retraced, found support, and bounced. And when it found resistance again and it retraced, that resistance is lower than the previous place it found resistance, and that is seen as negative. That is a lower high. And the next lower high will be confirmed when this trend line changes into a resistance, and that means we can see Barrick Gold at lower levels. And take note, Colin, how close that is to my 40-week moving average, that red line, and that will again ring the bell for long-term investors. Below that level, it will be negative. So if you want to short Barry Gold, I would maybe consider shorting it around current levels. Take note of that gold price. Just keep that in mind. And maybe use a level here of 1903. And if you want a bigger stop loss, maybe there at 1935. Let's see if we can go back and identify better horizontal lines. Yes, maybe 1986 as a strong stop loss level of resistance that you can use. I would be careful to short the gold shares at this stage. I know you sounded very keen to do that. I would maybe wait and sit on my hands for a moment. Amazon. Raina wanted us to look at Amazon, and we've discussed this share a couple of times because of lower highs and double top formations. And if we think about what the S&P 500 has done, and even the Nasdaq has done in the last couple of weeks and months, actually taking us into 2020, Amazon hasn't really done what the rest of the market has, and that is a little bit of a concern. So we can clearly see that these strong resistance levels are just staying resistance levels. They haven't managed to change these levels into a support again, and that is seen as negative. So yes, Amazon needs to change $1,906.31 into a support, and then especially these upper bands, they're waiting around $2,029 into a support before I can believe that the momentum to the top can continue again. It's close to that red line, the 40-week moving average. So if you want to consider a short on Amazon, I would do it around current levels. I would use a stop loss of about $1,946, or if you want a closer stop loss, maybe $1,920, and then massive targets to the downside, 1,771 and even $1,719. If this share breaks to the downside, we might be surprised at what it does. And also take note on the stochastic. It has broken downwards. My blue line has broken my red line to the downside, which confirms a divergence. But take note of those support resistance levels. Use them as protection levels for your capital. Please feel free to send us your request through via email or Twitter. Frans is still on holiday, so it will be me next week. Have a fabulous week. Take care.